Think back with me all the way to January of this year when I was out at Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show and I was spending time at the My Arcade booth looking at all the new stuff they had lined up. And easily the most exciting new product they had on display was their handheld, the new Gamestation Portable. Well, it has new features and a new name, and I have a new prototype to show you. All of that right after this.
If you're a Gen X grown-up, this YouTube channel is just the beginning. Go beyond gaming with a casual and humorous take on movies, music, TV, tech, pop culture, and more. Hear the weekly Gen X Grown Up podcast anywhere you like to listen or visit genxgrownup.com/pod.
Hey there, welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John, and I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thank you for taking the time to click on this video. So ever since CES, when I shared all those videos, I even took the Gamestation Portable one-on-one. I went hands-on with it and shared a video. Couldn't turn it on, but I could show you the design of it. We could postulate what it might do in the future, what kind of software and features it might have. And ever since then, pretty much every video, every day, I'll get a comment saying, "What's up with that portable? What's up with that portable? What's up with the new My Arcade portable?" And every time I got one of those messages, I took a screenshot and I texted it to my friends at My Arcade saying, "Look, people are dying for information." So I've been peppering them in the intervening months saying, let me show something new to my audience. They're very interested in this Gamestation Portable. Well, just a few weeks ago, I learned it has a new name. It's no longer the Gamestation Portable. It's now the Gamestation Go. And I said, great, send me the prototype that I can, show all the new stuff, because they told me, they shared with me some of the new features. And I said, I want to share that. Can I show it off? And they're like, well, we only have a couple of prototypes in-house, so we can't send one out to you. What if we sent you one of our 3D rendered prototypes? And I said, that's a great start. That'll do nicely to give us a chance to take a look at this new thing. So this is what I have. I have a 3D printed model of what is planned to be the released Gamestation Go later this year. Now, if you're disappointed that I don't have the full color working device in my hands to show you, let me tell you, so am I. I also am eager to get that in my hands. But better this than nothing. There's a lot we can learn from this thing, and keep in mind, this video will be the first of a series of videos as this nears release and finally releases and we take a look at it. So let's get this 3D printed Gamestation Go prototype to the table and see what we can learn. Here we go then. This is the 3D printed prototype of the new My Arcade Gamestation Go coming later this year. And while this is a 3D print and it's all one color, we're going to use our imagination here. Wherever possible, when I'm talking about a certain part of this that we can analyze, I'm going to put it side by side so we can compare it to the imagery, the press photos that were released all the way back in January to see how this product has evolved and try to see what we can intuit from that to tell us what we can expect when the product hits store shelves in, July, maybe 3 or 4 months. I'm guessing at this point it's got to be out for Christmas, right? The very first thing I want to talk about, the feeling in hand. Now it's very light because there are no guts in this. It's just, like I said, a prototype. But just like the Pocket Player Pros, all the Pocket Players, it has that little grip on the side up under your fingers so you can hold it nicely. They've raised the buttons up. We're going to look at all the controls and everything here. So this, I would say, is like the default way you would hold it. With your hand like this, you have a D-pad over here and the buttons over here, or you could go down to the trackball, or you could go up to the spinner or paddle up here. And it feels great. I mean, My Arcade has always done a good job of knowing how ergonomics works so that what you're holding is going to feel good in their handheld products, certainly. And speaking of how it feels in your hand, let's talk about thickness. Look at this. Look how much thinner this thing is compared to the one that we saw at CES back in January. They have to have shaved like a ½ inch or so off the depth of this. I think the horizontal bar is about the same, but these handles, my understanding is they used to have the batteries in the handles and they've moved those. So what we have is a more compact, certainly, device. One other thing here on the face overall I want to talk about before we dive into the controls is speakers. So initially on the prototype that was shown at CES, I don't know where the speakers were, honestly. They're around back on the sides or maybe they're hidden, but very clearly stereo speaker grills here on the front. So forward firing speakers, so it's going to be pointed right at you. There's always a headphone jack, which we'll see in a second. All right, let's look at the controls that probably we're going to get the most information. Over on this left-hand side then is where we can start to see little changes that were made. We still have a trackball included, and I felt that trackball when I was at CES, and it felt really good. It spun really free. This, again, just a print. It doesn't spin at all, so that's not happening. And then the D-pad probably saw the most change here. So this D-pad initially looked like it was going to be exactly the same as the ones that are on the Pocket players, just a little flat D-pad. And a lot of people spoke up in the comments, and I shared that information with My Arcade, and they've now put a raised plus on the D-pad here, on the directional. I appreciate that. It makes it easier to do the cardinal directions, and of course, you just lean on one of them to get your diagonals. So that is a welcome change. Also, you notice all of this has moved up a bit on the body. There were a couple of buttons here. I think those have moved. I'll show you in a second. Then we have the paddle. I'm going to call it a paddle for now because we all want it to be a spinner. One of the key things we talked about from CES, and in the comments I read, people saying, great, we have a paddle on the GameStation Pro. We want a free spinning spinner, one that we can use for arcade games like Arkanoid and Tempest, right? And like maybe playing Tron, like all those things. When we add our own games, we want to be able to access this as a freewheeling spinner, not just a paddle that has soft stops on it. We want something that'll free spin. We don't know what that is yet. Look, we can hope. We asked, we'll see what they deliver. We know not everything is going to come to us, but that was a thing we hoped for. Now, I mentioned that these are all elevated, and we lost these home and menu buttons that were up at the top of the left-hand side of the unit. And initially I couldn't find them, but I think they were hiding right over here. If you look, it's kind of hard to see, but there's kind of a slightly raised, what looks like a rocker button, not unlike a volume rocker, and it's a little lower in the bottom and higher on the edges. And I'm guessing that's going to be a two-stage button, like up top is home and down below is menu. I'm thinking, in fact, that same kind of thing has happened over on the other side, where we, of course, had that number pad, and then we had the 4 control buttons. We used to have a select and start right up here. That's not here any longer. We'll talk about that. Again, I think it's right over here. Let's look at this numpad first. Now, you'll remember over on the one we saw at CES, this numpad used to go all the way down here to the bottom corner, this rounded edge. If you look at the original, you can see that the pound sign, even part of the 0, is chopped off, like you had to kind of push here. So all that has been lifted a bit. So here's our numpad. I think you could just see it in the light here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What star, 0, and pound this will be. So we have a numpad here. The inclusion of a numpad in general just opens so many doors for me. Right away, I'm thinking 5200. Although we know we don't have an analog joystick, this would certainly open the door to more 5200 games. And then I'm thinking, so on the Atari front, Jaguar perhaps? And then you go beyond that, well, Intellivision now, because you have, look, you've got the Intellivision numpad here basically, and you have a controller and the buttons. This numpad, even beyond the spinner and the trackball, is the number one thing that intrigues me about the Gamestation Go, that says to me, there's a lot of possibility because so many more platforms. ColecoVision could be handled now, right? Because all of those buttons. Now you need to know what the overlay says. That's minutia. You can figure that out. The fact that it exists, it's input that's recognized by default. If this is done right by My Arcade, the numpad here could be the number one thing that puts this handheld device over the top. And I don't think that's hyperbole. There's huge potential with this. I know I'm pointing at squares that don't look like anything. You know what we're talking about. This is that cool numpad on the right side of the controller. So up above that, we have the 4 buttons. Now those initially were, they're still A, B, X, Y buttons just as they were. They look to be in the original render, and there's no reason to think it's different here. They feel about the same size as we would see on the Pocket players. And again, we had 2 buttons up here, right? We had a select and a start. And you can see we have, again, that little rocker switch on the edge of the screen, which I suspect is a 2-stage top and bottom select start button. Nice thing about that maybe is that you couldn't accidentally hit it. You'd have to reach over here beyond the controls. So that could be really cool. Now, you might think we're done with the controls, but something else has been added. And I'm going to tell you what that something else is right after I take a moment to remind you of our store. Over at GenXGrownUp.com/merch, you can get hats and t-shirts and mugs and pins and all sorts of stuff with original designs from gaming and pop culture and sports, pretty much anything you're into. we have designs for. And I see you out there going to our merch store. Every time there's a purchase, I get an anonymous email that says someone bought something. So I know you're going. I'm so grateful for that. Remember, anytime you're looking for cool, original stuff for yourself or for a gift, check out our store first, see if we've got what you want, because every time you purchase there, you also support independent content creation like we do here. All right, let's get back after it. So what is this up here on the top? Shoulder buttons have been added. This was not at all part of the design when we saw this in January. Here's an R1 and an R2. Here's an L1 and an L2 shoulder bumper. Now, this opens the world to, look, now we're getting closer to Jaguar territory. We're getting closer to other consoles. So we know this has an SD card slot, so the potential of expanding this, again, just like the numpad, this opens up a world of possibilities. Look, you're not going to need A, B, X, Y, and bumpers for playing Missile Command, for playing Yar's Revenge, for playing, you don't need 6 buttons, plus a directional, plus all this stuff. The fact that all this is here suggests to me that a couple of things. One, My Arcade is expanding upon the library beyond the titles or maybe even platforms that we saw in the Gamestation Pro last year, and also the fact that they're all here and in this configuration and not nailed down to just, a Jaguar layout or a television layout or something, tells me that they're further supporting our desire to expand this and put our own games on it. They would like this, I would like this to be a de facto unit that everyone uses to play. I've not seen the finished product. I don't know what it's going to be, but the possibilities, it's up to My Arcade to stick the landing at this point, right? Okay, while we're up here talking about the top of the device, let's see what else we have. We know about those bumpers, the shoulders, we saw that. This looks unchanged. This is the on-off button. I'm guessing that's going to stay the same. This previously just looked on the prototype like it was just a power LED, and it just showed power, although it's raised now. So maybe it still is that, or maybe it's something else. Don't know. Micro SD slot still here to provide for expandability. Hooray. We have a USB-C power in. There's more ports beyond that, but USB-C power here on the top to power it and charge the batteries, of course. We have a full-size HDMI out so that you can play this on your television. Think a Nintendo Switch or something. It's a handheld, but you can plug it in and play it. Now, we did understand, at least back in January, when you plug it into HDMI, the front-facing screen turns off. That's to be expected. That's fine. We're in 2 places. And then over here, we have a headphone jack for a standard headphone. This suggests to me no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth internal. I don't know that to be a fact, but if you have a headphone jack, you're probably not having Bluetooth these days, but maybe you have both. Don't know. I'm going to guess no. And then we have a volume rocker over here, up and down, next to these other shoulder bumpers. So as we near the end of our tour of this 3D printed prototype, let's turn our attention to the back, where it may be the back, but there's still some interesting stuff to learn. Initially, these handles had batteries in them. No longer, that's back here. So now there is probably a fan, and there's a battery grill back here in order to keep it cool. That makes some good sense. You have those grips that, again, I said ergonomically, good to hold on to. 2 USB in ports. So here's where you can connect your own controllers. The idea back in January was they were saying that you could plug in Gamestation Pro controllers here, or maybe that new gamepad they showed, or your own controller. What's compatible? I hope there's further compatibility beyond what we saw with the Gamestation Pro. I think My Arcade knows we want that. Down below here then we have just a kickstand, which is included and nice. This one doesn't pop out, but this kickstand would pop out to allow you to set this on a table if you wanted to play it not in your hand, but you want to connect a controller and be able to play it there. So little grippy texture on the side here, just like we saw before. So even on the back, interesting stuff to see. I can already envision having completed one of these, being able to power it on. It's comfortable in my hand. Of course, it's going to be a little heavier than I'm feeling. You've got the controls here. You've got your wheel. You've got your trackball. You've got these shoulder buttons. Everything in easy reach. Those other, I think there's the moved easy access buttons. We believe that's what those are. My only regret is that I can't turn it on because it has no internals. But it's certainly food for thought, and it whets my appetite for what's coming next with the Gamestation Go. If anything, having a chance to look at this prototype version of the new Gamestation Go has only got me more interested, more excited for what is to come, the potential of this new little handheld device. A couple more things we do still know. Still slated for Q4 of 2024. It's got to be coming out for Christmas time, right? There's not a date, but that's when it's got to be shipping based on what we've heard. We also know it's still slated to be $149.99, so it hasn't slipped that $150 price point. We don't know the software yet. Now, we did hear the internals are actually going to be slightly more powerful than last year's GameStation Pro, which means more capable at emulation. But if you ship me an handheld with Atari branding in 2024 and don't put Lynx games on it, you're going to hear from me. Look, it smells very Jaguar-y. It smells like they're expanding upon the library of Atari offerings and maybe more offerings that they can include. I'm excited to find out what else they do with this little device as it nears release. Definitely make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. I'll throw links here and here to other related videos, maybe future videos that I get after the publishing of this video. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.